Now you're ready to get your needle, thread, and your threader. Please take your scissors with you to the table. Remember to carry them by the handle facing down and always walk. When you get to the table, you will see threaders that look like this. You'll see a spool of thread, and you'll also see a pin cushion that has a variety of needles. Before you get your pin, you need to get your thread first. So, take your thread and you're going to want to unravel about an arm's length. So about the length of your arm, when you get to that point, pulling it out, take your scissors and go ahead and cut it off. Leave the spool of thread at the table. Go ahead and now you can choose your needle. There will be needles in most of these sections here. When you choose your needle, I want to make sure that you remember what color you got it from. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a needle from the dark yellow, and I'm going to remember where I got it, because when I return my supplies, I'm going to make sure that this needle goes back in the dark yellow spot. That way we can make sure that we don't lose any needles around the classroom. Now that you're back at your seat, you can see that we have our thread, our threader, and our needle. We're going to talk about how to thread a needle, and I have a nice, easy way to do it. A needle has a little eye at the top, a little hole at the top, and that's where your thread goes. The problem is that it's so small that sometimes it takes a while to try to get it through the eye of the needle, to get your thread through. So that's what this threader is for. Instead of trying to sit here and get that thread through, you're instead going to put the threader through the eye of the needle. And since it's made of metal, it can poke straight through nice and easy. And then take your thread and put your thread through the threader. Okay, so you can see I put the thread through the threader. Just a little bit through, that's fine. Now you're ready to take out the threader, pull it out, and like magic, now that thread is through the eye of your needle. At this point, you should have something that looks a little like this. Now what I want you to do is I want you to pull your thread through until it is equal on both sides. Now we're going to bring it together and we're ready to tie a knot. This will ensure that as you sew, your thread won't go right through your project. It'll stay put and be secure and stay there for a long time. Here's how to tie a knot at the end of your thread. You're going to take both pieces, remember this is two pieces put together, and you're going to make a loop like so, and then those two pieces of thread will go under and through. Now you're ready, it kind of looks like a pretzel here. Now you're ready to pull both sides to get your knot. Now here's the trick. If you just pull really quick, your knot is going to end up in the middle, and that's a waste of thread. We want our knot to be as close to the end as possible. So I like to kind of guide my knot. I like to go nice and slow, and you can kind of pull it down. And there's my knot. Now, right now you can probably barely see it because it is such a small knot. Now, that means that it might go right through my project. What I like to do is I like to make this knot 3 times, and you want to try to make the knot right on top of the previous knot, so it's nice and big. So here I'm going to tie again, and I kind of use my fingers to make sure it's right on top of that previous knot. and then I pull it tight. That's 2. And now one more time. Pull. I'm going nice and slow. There's my old knot, and there's a 3rd knot on top. Now that's a much bigger knot. That's not going anywhere. Now that you have all of the tools that you need, let's talk about safety. A lot of the things that we're using with sewing are very sharp objects, including our needle. So when you have your needle and thread, I need you to be careful of a few things. Number 1, if you need to get up to do something, do not just leave your needle sitting anywhere around the room. I need you to just stick it in your project. It won't ruin your project. Just stick it there, sticking up so it's nice and visible and it doesn't get lost. Then you can go do what you need to do. The other thing is that while you are sewing, this movement happens. Now you see that this needle is pointing up and away from me. That means when we're sewing, we need to make sure that we're in our own bubble. We don't want to pop that bubble. So make sure that you have plenty of space away from people around you. And then also make sure that if you are getting up to move around the room at any point, that you stay away from people who are sewing. Just be careful of your surroundings. Pay attention to where you are and where that needle is going, because we don't want someone to accidentally get poked.